Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? Tempo TCG here, back on the Shuffle Squad YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be covering another tier list video post-Indianapolis Regionals. Now, Dialga did take down this regional, and the meta has definitely shifted a lot. So without further ado, let's jump into the video, let's see where everything's ranking, and yeah. So, here we're starting Entei Valiant. Normally I always go, yep, Valiant sucks, D tier, but with the rise of Dialga, I think Entei Valiant's place is coming back. Lost Zone Box is getting big again, is performing really well. It was like the 4th most represented deck in day 2, and I think that Entei Valiant, maybe it's a real deck, guys. I'm just gonna put it in C right now. I don't think it's like, play this deck, it's really good, but I don't think it's like, don't touch this deck because it's really bad. Roaring Moon back in the B tier. It was A tier. I think the deck was pretty good. Well, this is Dino Nuggies, not Roaring Moon. But in general, it vastly underperformed this regional, right? I was half expecting it to make a top 8, and then its conversion rate tanked. There wasn't much representation in day 2. So you know what? I'm just putting it over in the B tier. Arc Armor Rouge deck is also probably B tier. It takes a really good Dialga matchup, so it's probably fine to play. Your Charizard matchup's pretty good, so you know what? Maybe it's going to be a really good deck. Overall, I think the deck, yeah, I think it's solid. I think it's probably really strong. It's an Arceus deck, so it's probably really consistent. Not much else to say. Palkia Dango, don't play this deck. Yeah, don't play it probably, but maybe C tier, right? Like, it's Goldango, it's going to be okay. I don't know if any were in day 2. I didn't really check. Goldango's not one of those decks that I'm like, I'm worried about this. I actually don't think there were any in day 2 though, to be honest. Maybe one. Yeah, Goldango's just not great right now. Probably a C tier deck. Just don't play it. Don't play Great Tusk. Don't play Future Box. Don't play Bibzard. Not that it's bad. It's definitely better than Goldango. Definitely better than Entei Valiant. Probably better than Arc Armor Rouge. But there's just like, if you're playing Charizard, just play Pidgeot Charizard. No point in playing Barrel. Don't play Roaring Moon without Dunsparce and Baby Roaring Moon. Blocklex is probably C tier as well. Just for the fact that, like, there was one of them in day 2, right? Like, Blocklex is not the ideal way to play Control. As we saw, Pidgeot Control went bonkers this weekend, so we're going to get to that eventually. But I think Control is, like, Block is probably a C tier deck. Gardevoir is up in the B tier. Definitely better, I think, than both Ancient Box and Chark. So, yeah, right, like, Gardevoir, it's okay. It didn't really hit its top 8. Well, it didn't hit it at all, right? Not that it didn't really hit it. It just didn't hit top 8. Definitely maybe just didn't do as well as we thought. I think it was still, like, 5th most represented, maybe 6th. One of those, right? Like, it was still on the graphic. It's still a good deck. I think the deck is well positioned, right? Like, I think a lot of your matchups are pretty good. I think as long as you, like, know what you're doing, you're fine. Miraidon, don't play Miraidon. D is not ordered whatsoever because Miraidon's probably better than most of these. Miraidon's good next format, but, like, right now, just don't play it, right? It's just not worth it. Turbo Hands, also a deck that probably is not good to play. C tier feels really proper for it. A bad Dialga matchup, a bad, what's the deck? A bad Charizard matchup, right? You just don't want those, and honestly, those decks are probably going to be the biggest decks in the format for League Cups and just stuff like that, right? Like, people in that deck who won the regional, and that's just how it is. Chen Pao, S tier. You're not for the top 8 and going anywhere below S tier. I don't think it's best deck in the format, but I think it's probably 2nd best deck in the format. I think people have definitely figured out the proper list. If you go to Limitless, like, there's like 20 entries under the same list. I actually just posted about it on Twitter. But yeah, like, I think the deck is really, really, really good right now. I think it's great into Charizard. It's great into most of the meta in general. So for that reason, it's up here in the S tier. Salvatore Bennett, probably don't play that deck. Definitely fake. Moonsparce feels pretty bad. Like, with Lost Box on the rise, I know in theory you're like, your Lost Box matchup seems okay, but I'm also like, in theory it also kind of seems bad, right? Because, like, if I'm playing Lost Box and I play Lost Bolt, it might be a little different if you're Lost Box, but, like, that first Roaring Moon, I'm just swinging Baby Roaring Moon to force Big Moon to come out. Maybe with my own Moon or something, I'm gonna go Calamity Storm so that they have to gouging me, right? Like, there's just tons of scenarios you can put yourself in where then you go, okay, I'm gonna amp you very much on your Roaring Moon for 3 prizes, and that just wins you the game. Lugia is a deck that also flunked flunked once again. I really want Lugia to fly high. Like, I really, really, really want Lugia to be good, but it's just not performing. I think your Arceus matchups are really good. I think in general, Lugia is solid. Like maybe it's still top 10. I think it actually is probably a worse pick than the Ancient Box decks. They're probably like Ancient Box, Moonsparce, and Lugia are probably like all three very close. Like you could put Lugia in front of both, you could put Moonsparce in front of both, and I wouldn't be upset, right? Like they're very interchangeable. They're probably around the same spot in the format right now. Lost Zone Bolt is probably better than every deck but Future Hands in C tier, right? The deck now has 2 day 2s, which is more this format than Entei Valiant, I guess. The deck actually feels really good. I took it to my second day 2. Nobody else has faith in the deck. Well, some people have faith, but nobody else has made it day 2. I did see a couple people playing the deck at the regional. I had one guy come up. He's like, yo, listen, I saw your stuff. I saw how well you did. I watched you play, and he net decked it, and it was really awesome to hear that. I really love when people say stuff like that. And I think he ended up doing pretty good. I think he went like 5-3-1 or something. So it's not amazing, but like the deck's clearly real, right? Like it doesn't make 2 day 2s back to back, and you're like, yeah, it's fake. Charizard still best deck in format. No arguments. I got nothing new to say about Charizard. Right? Like it's still Charizard. You still have the best attack in the game and the 2 best abilities in the game in Quick Search and Infernal Rain. Nothing you can say about it. Lost Box was very highly represented in the meta. I do believe that outside, I do believe it is 4th place for most represented in day 2, which is pretty okay. It was very well represented in the top 32, I believe. 5 of the top 32 was Lost Box, which is pretty solid, right? Like, it did well. It made a top 8. It has the same amount of top 8s in Indianapolis as Charizard does, which is pretty sick. I think it's well positioned. I think it's probably an A tier deck right now. If you want to play it, right? Like, it's well positioned. There's tons of ways you can play it. So yeah, it's up here in the A tier. Guardy, Bolt, don't play that deck. Torterra, don't play. Meowscarada, don't play. Goopix, don't play. Bolt Palkia is probably really good, actually. So it did see a day 2. I think it's better than Lost Zone Bolt. It's kind of just Sandy Shocks build with a Palkia, so you can Radiant Greninja. But Palkia is a more efficient attacker into weaker decks. So like a deck like Arc Armarouge, right? I think Palkia is really strong into because you're killing Armarouge without having to discard tons and tons of energies. And I think that's a really solid thing to do. Into a deck like Ancient Box, you can go, yeah, my Palkia is just beefy enough and it swings good numbers. And for that reason, like I feel like it's really optimal to play that way. Espathra is another deck. It's definitely better than Raging Bolt is, but I think Espathra is creeping up on the top 10, and I think that's really awesome. I like Espathra a lot. I think it's a really cool ability. It takes some good matchups into like the top 10 decks, but it takes some bad matchups as well. I think it is probably around maybe like 10, maybe 8 to 13, I think. You could probably put Espathra, and I'm not upset by that. Raging Bull Shocks has now had 4 day 2s. That's pretty sick, right? Like, for a deck that nobody thought was real, I'm putting it in B tier legitimately right now. Like, Dialga in Orlando had 2 day 2s at the whole event. Raging Bolt had 4 people day 2 with it in Indianapolis. And you know what? After Dialga's 2 day 2s, it decided to win a regional. So who knows? Bolt to win the next regional? I guess it's the IC, but Bolt's probably not winning the IC, but a guy can dream, okay? Don't play for Alligator. That's a D tier easily. Arcgoo, probably D tier. Arctina's probably A tier. It was the 3rd most represented deck. I think Arceus is busted right now in the format. Just in general, like, take a good Charizard matchup. I think your Lost Box matchup's pretty okay. I think, like, a lot of your matchup spread is pretty okay overall. The deck's consistent, and that's kind of just what you need. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's a top 5 deck in the format right now. And some people might disagree. A lot of people are haters. A lot of people believe it too much, but that's just where I'm at right now. Charizard in the D tier. Lost Tina has fallen. The deck is still real, I think, but I think it's definitely not where it was, right? I initially was like, this is the 3rd best deck in the format. It is no longer there for me, right? Kind of fell apart in day 2 of Indianapolis, where I was like, wow, this deck has no representation, and sometimes that just happens. Dialga is an A tier deck for me. I think I think it was the play for the weekend, obviously. It did win, right? Like, there was so much Chen Pao, which is a good matchup. There's so much Charizard, which was a good matchup. Your Arceus matchup feels pretty okay. Like, there was so much stuff that just went towards Dialga being a great play. Your Lost Tina matchup is really good too, right? Like, I was sitting there, I'm like, man, Dialga genuinely had the heist of the century, and we are putting a video out on Dialga in the coming days, so keep an eye out for that. Pidgeot Control, another deck that made top 8. I could really put Pidgeot Control in A tier and feel fine doing that. It had great representation in the top 32. I believe there was 5 of them, maybe 4. And the deck just, it felt great, right? Like, into this meta, it feels really good. If you Eerie away 2 SERs out of Chien-pao, or Eerie away 2 Rods or Mirage Gates out of Lost Box, they're probably not having a good time. I think Pidgeot is probably an A tier deck right now. Lost Goo is probably D tier. So yeah, guys, this is kind of where I've landed. I think the top 6 decks in the format, I actually think Lost Zone Box is up there right now. And I actually think Arctina is up there right now. Lugia is probably on the cusp of the top 10 right now. And I think Raging Bolt has entered the top 15. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I love to hear from all of you guys. We do try our best to get back to everybody. Sometimes it's a little hard over regional weekends, but we will be getting to all the comments eventually. Until next time, I love you guys. Thank you all so much for the support. Shout out you guys for 20K. We did just hit that today. And until next time, I'll see you later.
Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.